They thought you would always be there. They believed your patience had no limit, your love had no ending, and your presence was guaranteed. But the moment you chose yourself, something inside them changed forever. Someone is thinking about you far more than you realize, and the intensity of their feelings has reached a point where they can no longer pretend it does not matter. What makes this so powerful is that you never forced this reaction. You did not chase them, manipulate them, beg for their attention, or try to control how they felt. Everything unfolded naturally because something inside you shifted. If these words found you today, do not dismiss that as coincidence. Sometimes we pause because a deeper part of us recognizes truth before the mind can explain it. Perhaps that is why you stayed here, because something within you sensed there was a message meant for you. At this very moment, someone from your past, or perhaps someone still present in your life, is wrestling with an internal conflict that revolves around you. Not because you demanded too much, but because you stopped doing what they assumed you would always continue doing. One quiet decision changed everything. Before we continue, welcome to Beyond Jung. If you are drawn to the hidden psychology of relationships, self-worth, and human behavior, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Now, let us begin. There came a moment when you finally chose yourself, and it did not need to be dramatic to be life-changing. There was no long speech, no emotional farewell, no desperate attempt to make someone understand your pain. From the outside, it may have looked like nothing had changed at all, but inside you, everything had shifted. Where there used to be endless effort, there is now calm. Where anxiety once ruled your thoughts, peace has slowly taken its place. You stopped over-explaining your feelings. You stopped defending your worth to people who should have recognized it without being convinced. You stopped abandoning yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. And in that quiet act of self-respect, you began standing beside yourself instead of against yourself. That decision created a reaction in them that they never expected. They had convinced themselves that you would always remain available, that your patience had no limit, that your forgiveness would never run out, and that your love would always be waiting whenever they finally decided they were ready. But when people believe something is permanent, they often stop appreciating it. They stop protecting it. They stop making it a priority. They begin treating it like something they can return to whenever it is convenient, never realizing that one day the door may no longer be open. And then, that day comes. You stopped reminding them of your value. You stopped explaining your pain. You stopped proving your loyalty over and over again. You stopped sacrificing your own happiness just to keep the connection alive. The silence you left behind became impossible for them to ignore. And this is often where obsession quietly begins. Deep emotional attachment rarely grows when someone feels fully in control. It grows when they suddenly realize they may have already lost what mattered most. When the emotional support they relied on disappears. When the comfort they took for granted is no longer there. When the person they assumed would never leave finally stops reaching. Whether they admit it or not, your memory has become part of their daily thoughts. They remember your smile, your kindness, the patience you offered without expecting anything in return, and the way you stayed during difficult moments when walking away would have been much easier. They remember how you listened without judging them, and how you noticed the parts of them they tried so hard to hide from everyone else. Their greatest regret is not simply losing access to your presence, but failing to recognize your value while they still had it. Only after your energy was gone did they understand what they had lost. Even if they never send a message, even if they pretend everything is fine, even if social media shows smiles, busy schedules, and confidence, your absence continues to echo inside them. Because you were never just another person who cared about them. You truly understood them. And losing someone who genuinely sees you is different from losing a relationship. It feels like losing the version of yourself that only existed because someone loved you completely. Carl Jung believed that every person carries hidden parts of themselves, unexpressed dreams, unresolved wounds, forgotten fears, and untapped potential. And when someone feels deeply understood, those hidden parts finally have a place to exist. When you stepped away, those hidden parts were left exposed. What makes your decision so powerful is that you did not react with bitterness. You did not seek revenge. You did not try to make them jealous. You did not turn your heartbreak into a performance designed to gain attention. Instead, you chose dignity. You quietly honored your own worth, and that kind of self-respect speaks louder than any argument ever could. Without saying a word, it communicates a simple message. I know my value, even if you failed to recognize it. Realizing they underestimated someone who genuinely values themselves creates a deep emotional shock. and now their mind keeps returning to the same painful questions, especially during quiet nights when distractions disappear. Why did I not choose them sooner? Why did I assume they would always be there? Why does everything feel empty now? They scroll through old messages. They revisit forgotten conversations. They wonder whether you have already moved on. More than once, they type your name only to erase it before pressing send, because reaching out now would mean admitting a truth they spent too long avoiding. You were sincere. They simply were not ready. And that is the part they cannot escape, because your absence has forced emotions they buried deep inside to rise to the surface. What they once ignored is now impossible to silence. What they once took for granted now feels irreplaceable. And what they once believed would always remain has become the very thing they fear losing forever. The emotions they buried for so long are finally demanding to be felt. The regrets they postponed, the truths they refused to face, and the feelings they kept pushing aside are all rising to the surface because the comfort of your constant presence is no longer there to distract them. Many people misunderstand what this stage really means. Someone can be deeply in love with you and still not know how to love you in a healthy way. Strong feelings alone are never enough. Love without emotional maturity still hesitates when commitment is required. Love that has never healed continues to fear vulnerability. Love without personal growth often delays action until opportunities have already passed. That is why this moment is not about rushing back to them or trying to fix what they are finally beginning to understand. It is about recognizing what your presence awakened inside them. You showed them what genuine love looked like without pressure or control. You offered consistency without demanding anything in return. You created emotional safety without using manipulation. Now, without you doing anything at all, they are left carrying the full weight of your absence. Silence often speaks more clearly than arguments ever could. Distance has a way of creating clarity that endless conversations never achieve. Carl Jung observed that loneliness is not simply the absence of people, but the inability to share what truly matters. While you were there, your presence quietly communicated what words never could. Now your absence is revealing the value they failed to recognize while they still had you. This is why patience matters more than impulse. If you break the silence too quickly, or rescue them from the discomfort they are experiencing, you interrupt the very lesson life is trying to teach them. This space is accomplishing something your love alone never could. It is forcing reflection, responsibility, and emotional honesty. Deep down, this has never been about punishment or revenge. It has always been about alignment. The right person does not suddenly value you only after you disappear. The right person chooses you while you are still standing beside them because they recognize your worth without needing the fear of losing you. If this message found you today, perhaps it is because your heart naturally carries compassion. People with gentle hearts often confuse love with responsibility. You may sense their regret, feel their emotions from a distance, or even dream about them. But none of those experiences automatically mean you are meant to return. Sometimes a connection is real without being permanent. Some relationships enter our lives to awaken growth, teach self-worth, and prepare us for something healthier. As Carl Jung suggested, whatever remains unconscious continues to shape our lives until we finally confront it. They resisted their own growth while you were beside them. Now, without your comfort protecting them from discomfort, they have no choice but to face themselves. If they ever come back, let it be because they have genuinely changed, not because they are lonely, frightened, or afraid of losing you, but because they are finally ready to love with consistency, intention, and emotional maturity. Anything less is simply the same unhealthy pattern wearing a different disguise. And if they never return, understand this without doubting yourself for a second. You were never difficult to love. Their inability to meet you had everything to do with where they were emotionally, not with your value. Someone whose heart, timing, and emotional depth truly align with yours will recognize what you offer without confusion or hesitation. They will not leave you questioning your place in their life. They will not create endless uncertainty or make you wonder whether you are enough. The deepest reason someone cannot stop thinking about you is not because you chased them until they cared. It is because you stopped chasing altogether and remembered your own worth. That quiet confidence is a form of strength that cannot be faked. It is calm instead of desperate, steady instead of anxious, and rooted instead of reactive. Yet the story goes even deeper. When you stepped back, it was not only your physical presence that disappeared from their world. They also lost the mirror that reflected the best parts of who they could become. Through your attention, they felt important. Through your patience, they felt accepted. Through your steady presence, they experienced a sense of emotional balance they may never have realized they depended on. When all of that quietly disappeared, it felt like more than losing a relationship. It felt like losing a part of themselves. At first, they tried to explain away the silence with comforting stories. They convinced themselves you were simply busy, that you only needed space, or that everything would eventually return to the way it had always been. To avoid facing the truth, they filled their days with distractions: work, friends, entertainment, new conversations, and endless activity. But distractions only succeed when a connection was shallow. What existed between the two of you reached much deeper. Real emotional bonds grow roots, and roots do not disappear simply because someone stops paying attention to them. Eventually, those distractions began to lose their power, and confusion quietly took their place. They started noticing your absence in the smallest moments, in the silence before sleep, during peaceful afternoons, between phone notifications, or in the middle of ordinary days that should have felt complete. Your absence did not arrive like a storm. It appeared gently, almost invisibly, settling into the spaces they thought they had already filled. That is why it became so difficult to escape. Loud pain eventually demands attention and then fades, but quiet emptiness lingers beneath the surface, reminding them again and again of what they overlooked. What they once ignored has become impossible to silence, and every passing day brings them closer to understanding the true value of what they allowed to slip away. They begin wondering why nobody else feels the same, why conversations with others feel empty, why laughter does not carry the same warmth, why attention from different people does not create the same feeling your presence once created. Slowly, an emotional comparison begins, not always consciously, but somewhere deeper within them. Their mind and body remember a type of comfort and emotional safety that no longer exists. What they miss is not simply your company or the convenience of having someone there. They miss the emotional balance you brought into their life. Without even realizing it, you helped calm their inner storms. Your consistency gave them stability. Your presence softened their uncertainty. You became a place where they felt understood and grounded. And when you quietly stepped away, their inner world lost the balance it had grown dependent on. That confusion and emptiness can feel overwhelming, which is why they keep replaying memories. They are not only remembering romantic moments, they are searching for the point where everything changed. They revisit conversations, analyze their words, and think about the moments when your energy became different. They wonder when you stopped explaining, when your effort became quieter, and when you finally stopped trying to hold everything together alone. What hurts their pride the most is realizing that you did not leave because your feelings disappeared. You left because you finally began choosing yourself. If you had walked away in anger, they could have blamed the conflict. If you had created a dramatic ending, they could have convinced themselves that emotions caused it. If you had left loudly, they could have created a story where you were the problem. But you did not give them that excuse. You walked away peacefully, with self-respect and dignity. That leaves them facing an uncomfortable truth. You were never dependent on them to survive. Nothing affects someone more than realizing they underestimated a person who is fully capable of building a life without them. This is where internal bargaining begins. They may think about reaching out, but often not from a place of complete clarity or genuine commitment. Instead, they may test the connection with a simple message, a casual question, or a small attempt to see if the door is still open. Part of them wants the comfort of knowing you are still there, but without yet accepting the responsibility required to truly change. This is why your patience and restraint matter. If you immediately return with the same warmth and availability, the old pattern can easily restart. They receive access to your energy without having to grow. But when you remain calm, grounded, and stop searching for answers from someone who avoided giving them before, something important happens. They are forced to sit with themselves, and that is where real reflection begins. Being alone with their own thoughts is uncomfortable for many people. They start recognizing patterns they previously ignored. They notice how they delayed decisions, how they assumed others would always wait, how they avoided choosing until circumstances forced them to act. They begin understanding that emotional availability from someone does not mean that person will always remain available forever. These realizations are not easy because they require honest confrontation with the self. Yet that confrontation is where growth begins, and it is the reason the emotional energy around this situation feels so intense. You may experience sudden thoughts of them, unexpected memories, or emotional waves that appear without warning. A meaningful connection can leave an echo when it ends, not because you are destined to return, but because both people are processing something that remained unfinished. Processing does not always mean reconnecting. Sometimes it means accepting, learning, and integrating the experience into who you are becoming. You are integrating the version of yourself that chose self-respect instead of constantly giving more than you received. They are integrating the realization that love cannot be placed on pause and expected to remain unchanged forever. Many people make the mistake of confusing understanding someone with being responsible for saving them. You may understand their fears, their struggles, and the reasons behind their behavior, but that does not mean their healing belongs to you. You already gave what you could give. You loved sincerely. You showed consistency. You offered patience and genuine care. The next stage of their growth must come from their own choice. That is why this distance matters. It may feel uncomfortable, quiet, and uncertain, but honesty is often found in those spaces. You did not create this reaction through manipulation. You did not step away to control them or play emotional games. You simply stopped pouring your energy into something that was not valuing it properly. Now they are experiencing what happens when love is no longer assumed, when access is no longer automatic, and when someone's presence is no longer guaranteed. At the same time, something powerful is changing inside you. You are becoming stronger without becoming cold. You are becoming softer without needing to beg to be chosen. You are learning to exist fully without constantly negotiating your worth. Even if they never return, this transformation has already changed you. You will no longer over-explain yourself just to be understood. You will no longer ignore your own needs to keep a connection alive. You will no longer confuse loyalty with sacrificing yourself completely. This is the true victory. From this point forward, you stop searching for people who need endless reminders of your value. You become available for those who recognize it naturally. The right person does not wait for distance to reveal your importance. They do not need to lose you before appreciating you. They choose you while they still have the opportunity. So remain grounded, stay present, and release your attachment to any specific outcome. More is changing within you than you can see right now. When you stopped reaching outward for validation, you created space inside yourself, a space where anxiety once lived, where waiting for messages consumed your thoughts, and where you constantly searched for reassurance. At first, that space may feel unfamiliar, but it is the beginning of returning to yourself. The silence you are experiencing may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you were used to constant emotional movement, waiting, uncertainty, and trying to hold everything together. But this quiet does not represent emptiness. It represents a new balance beginning to form inside you. There may still be moments when your mind automatically returns to them. You may remember old conversations, replay shared experiences, or wonder what they are feeling now. That pull does not mean you are weak. Real emotional connections do not disappear instantly. They slowly loosen over time, layer by layer. The difference now is that you are no longer abandoning yourself just to satisfy that emotional attachment. You are no longer sacrificing your peace to maintain a connection by yourself. For the first time, the relationship is no longer being carried only by your effort. It is being measured by honesty, reality, and mutual willingness. And truth has a different weight than effort. Many people misunderstand silence because they believe it means doing nothing. They assume distance is passive, but intentional silence can be one of the most powerful actions a person takes. When silence comes from self-respect instead of avoidance, it creates transformation. You are no longer chasing explanations from someone who avoided giving them. You are no longer repeatedly expressing your needs to someone who benefited from ignoring them. You are no longer carrying all the emotional responsibility just to keep something alive that was not equally supported. That decision creates a different kind of energy. They notice it because the dynamic they once relied on is no longer available. The emotional comfort they stretched without realizing its value has returned to you. Now they are left facing their own thoughts without your calming presence absorbing the impact. They have to confront what your presence provided: reassurance, stability, emotional safety, and a place where they felt accepted without having to ask for it. This is when the mind often begins creating different kinds of memories. Not fantasies of romance, but thoughts filled with regret and reflection. They begin imagining different outcomes and asking themselves questions they avoided before. What if I had chosen differently? What if I had appreciated them sooner? Why did I assume they would always remain available? These thoughts do not always come from complete emotional growth immediately. Sometimes they appear because the comfort they once had is no longer accessible. Losing access can become one of the strongest ways people recognize value. But beneath missing you, something deeper is happening. They are also missing the version of themselves that existed around you, the calmer version, the more open version, the version that felt understood without needing to pretend or prove anything. The version that felt less alone, simply because you were present. That is why the absence can feel so powerful. It is not only about losing a person, it is about losing an emotional state they associated with being around you. You became part of their inner world naturally, and when you stepped away, that emotional system did not collapse immediately. Instead, it slowly became unstable in ways they could no longer ignore. As time passes, the experience may feel different for both of you. For them, certain days may feel heavier. Quiet moments may become longer. Nights may feel more reflective because there are fewer distractions. For you, this phase may feel clearer, but still emotional. You are not lost in constant anxiety, but you are not completely detached either. You are learning to remain present with your own feelings, instead of escaping into overthinking and endless effort. This is often the moment when doubts begin to appear. You may wonder if you were too harsh, if you should reach out, or if you misunderstood the situation. But this is where compassion can sometimes pull you back into taking responsibility for another person's emotional journey. Ask yourself one honest question. Did you step away because you wanted to hurt them, or because continuing to stay was hurting you? Those two choices are completely different. You did not create distance to control them or force a reaction. You created distance because remaining in that situation required you to keep reducing yourself. And any connection that requires you to disappear piece by piece is not healthy love. It is endurance. You did not close the door by choosing yourself. You simply removed the belief that the door would always remain open regardless of how you were treated. That difference matters. If they are capable of growth, this experience may become the beginning of self-reflection for them. But real growth does not happen through dramatic promises or temporary emotions. It begins quietly, through honesty, accountability, and facing uncomfortable truths about oneself. If they are unable or unwilling to grow, then this same distance becomes your protection from returning to a situation where you carried all the weight. Either way, choosing yourself creates safety. But protection does not always feel like victory in the beginning. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels quiet. Sometimes it feels like standing alone after a long conversation has finally ended. That does not mean you made the wrong choice. It means you chose yourself, even when nobody was there to applaud you. And yes, there can be grief in that decision. Grief for the future you imagined. Grief for the possibilities you hoped would happen. Grief for the version of that person you believed they could become. Those emotions are real and deserve to be felt. But do not allow nostalgia to rewrite the truth. When you look back with honesty instead of longing, the reality remains the same. You offered sincerity, patience, understanding, and genuine presence.